everybody, and welcome to the Texas FBS College Football Countdown. This is I don't know what episode this is. This is week number 10. We're heading into a big week. And do we have a new number one team in the Texas FBS Countdown? Stay tuned. We're going to know. But what we do is we count down the 13 teams in the state of Texas who are FBS eligible. In other words, they're in bowl conferences where they are eligible to go into the 12-team playoff. And we've had this going. I initially started with just a tweet out with my rank, and then I started a few weeks ago. I started doing a video about it just to have fun and do that. There's been one team at the top every week. There might be a new one today, but let's see how this goes. We're going to start out, and we go from 13 up to 1, and that's where we go. We're going to start out with number 13, and in number 13, again, is the University of Texas El Paso Miners. They lost to Virginia Tech this week, 14-10. They lost to Louisiana Tech, and now they go next week. They are going to host Middle Tennessee State. Coach Walden there has done a decent job. It was pretty exciting last week. The week before last, they did beat Florida International, and it was nice to see Walden celebrate with his kids. That was his first win as head coach. He's in his first year. That's a program that's it's getting a full rebuild there. But good for them. And they're still going to stay down below there. They did lose a tough one, not very much scoring there. 14-10 was the final score, but they stay at number 10. I'm sorry, at number 13. Now we go to number 12. Number 12, again, is the Rice Owls. Rice is number 12. They lost this week to UConn, 17-10. They are going to go. They host Navy this weekend. Navy had their first loss. It was Navy that had their first loss. I think Army is still undefeated. Look, they're 2-6. They did beat UTSA, but I'm still going to go with UTSA, who's ranked ahead of them. If they played on a neutral field again, I do think UTSA would end up winning that game right now. But Rice Rice has never been really good at football, but baseball has kind of been their one sport where they've gone to the College World Series a couple of times. Anyway, so Rice stays at number 12. Next, we're going to go to number 11. Number 11 is the UTSA Roadrunners, who lost this week to Tulsa 46-45. That was a high-scoring game. They do play Memphis this week, which doesn't look good for them either. They do have a better record than Rice, and that's another reason that I picked UTSA over Rice. They are 3-5. Rice is 2-6. They did lose the head-to-head to Rice. It was 29-27, and it was at Rice, so that's why I say maybe you get them on a neutral field. That's always the deciding factor. You put them on a neutral field, who would win on a neutral field? They actually played each other. They played at Rice. Rice beat them 29-27. But if they were to go on a neutral field, I still think UTSA is probably the better team right there. So I went ahead and gave them. They do have the better record, and in this case, that works for me. You see this sometimes in the top 25 AP poll where someone might beat somebody, have a worse record, and be below them, even though there's a head-to-head. It sucks. It's not good. But I have to look at it in a way of, if they played each other on a neutral field 10 times, who would win most of those games? And in my opinion, it would be UTSA. All right. Now we're going to go to our top 10. Number 10, the Houston Cougars. Houston Cougars won this week, and they beat Utah. Utah not playing with their normal starting quarterback who's out. They beat them 17-14. Utah was a team that's everybody had high hopes for. They've kind of fallen off with the injury. Good win for Houston, especially this weekend. They are going to be playing. They're going to be hosting Kansas State. That's probably they probably bit off a little more than they can chew. They're back in the Big 12 now. They kind of hang at the bottom of the Big 12 there. I do have them ahead of UTSA and Rice. They don't play those two teams, and UTEP obviously too. On a neutral field, head-to-head, yeah, I think Houston's a better team. Right now, their record is 3-5, the way UTSA's is right now. But this next week coming up against Kansas State, let's see what happens. But that's your top 10. Let's go to number 9. Number 9 is the University of North Texas Mean Green. And look, this was a team that hung around the top 5 or 6 because they started off hot. They were at one time they were 5-1. They've lost 2 weeks in a row. This week they lost to Tulane 45-37, pretty much a shootout. They're going to be playing Army. Army's number 21. They're going to be playing Army. They're going to host Army this weekend. That might be a game. Be fun, Metroplex people to go up there to the new stadium up there in Denton and watch that Army team, which they're good. I mean, they're undefeated. They haven't played a lot. Let's be honest about it. But Army is undefeated and a good team. I have a feeling with that they run that wishbone thing and run that big running attack. And I'm always pulling for our military schools like that. But UNT kind of coming back down to earth after the start they had. First big loss was to Tech when they lost 6-21. But I mean, they beat they beat Wyoming. I mean, Wyoming was pretty good the last couple of years and played Texas pretty well last year. I mean, they ended up getting beat by Texas. Never really, Texas kind of had control over them the entire game down in Austin. But Wyoming, could score a little bit and wasn't completely out of their league there. They beat FAU, Florida Atlantic also. Lost to Memphis 52-44, which is another high scoring game this week. 45-37 to Tulane. Let's see what happens with Army. Now let's go to number 8. Number 8 is the Texas State Bobcats. This is another team that is kind of come back down to earth. They are they're 4-4 overall. They've lost the last couple of weeks. They lost to University of Louisiana 23-17. Louisiana Monroe is who they lost to 23-17. They have a bye this week. They don't play this week. Their big win was, they just boat raced UTSA when they beat them, I think 49-10, something like that. That was a big win for them. They went out to Arizona State and played with Arizona State and lost that game 31-28 out there. It was a good game. And then they ended up losing to Sam Houston. Very close one there, 40-39. But, I like Texas State and what's going on down there in San Marcos. But this week they're off. They do have, then they go to, actually they have University of Louisiana Monroe. I'm sorry, that's who they're playing. They played University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns is who they beat this week. It's Monroe who they play not this weekend, but next weekend. Now let's go to number 7. Number 7 is another 4-4 team who had a really good win this week, and they have started to come into their own just a little bit after the last couple of weeks, and they are the Baylor Bears. The Baylor Bears are 4-4, and they won this week against Oklahoma State, 38-28. And look, big win for them. They go to TCU this weekend. That's going to be a tough one. TCU's the one that's really kind of been on the rise, who's had some good games lately over there. But give what's his name some credit there at Baylor, because he was on a major hot seat, probably still sort of on a hot seat, but they're getting close to being bowl eligible. They've got Houston, Kansas, and West Virginia on that schedule going up. They're 2 wins away from being bowl eligible. Aranda, that didn't look good. I mean, they started out the year with a win over Tarleton, then they beat Air Force, and then they lost 3 in a row and pretty badly going into Big 12 play. But good win against Oklahoma State. Let's see how they do against TCU. Let's go to number 6. Number 6 is the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech is better. Look, Texas Tech lost to Baylor a couple weeks ago. Pretty bad. And there's probably, you could go back and forth on this or whether or not you think Texas Tech is better than Baylor. It's a toss-up to me. They beat them pretty bad. They played at Baylor. They lost 59-35 at Baylor. But again, you're going to go back. They have a better record right now. Texas Tech is 5-3. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to TCU and barely lost to TCU this last weekend, 35-34. I think, again, you go into a neutral area and play each other on a neutral field. Who do I think wins most of those games? Joey McGuire, I like Joey McGuire better than Dave Aranda. I just think somehow he would turn that team around and they are the better team against him. Look, you can argue if you're a Baylor fan, there's no way that I should have them above, have Texas Tech above them since you beat Texas Tech pretty badly, which you did. But that's what I feel here. Let's see how the rest of the schedule goes. Let me tell you what, you really want to prove something to me where Baylor might jump them this week. Baylor's playing TCU, but you know who Texas Tech's going to play? Texas Tech is going to Iowa State, and Iowa State is an undefeated juggernaut. Let's see what they do against Iowa State. That could change a lot of this, and Baylor, you might get redeemed anyway. So that goes to Texas Tech. Now we go to our top 5 schools. Number 5 is the Sam Houston Bearcats. Sam Houston Bearcats. They are 7-2. They beat Louisiana Tech. You're not reading this wrong. They won 9-3 against Louisiana Tech. They won the week before against FIU 10-7. It's the reason, even though they have a better record than the team that is one ahead of them, that I've got the team ahead of them. That's some lacking offense right there. Louisiana Tech held them to, there was a field goal game. Basically, the kickers are the ones that got into it. A 9-3 game there. FIU, they won 10-7 again. So what do? They're off. They don't play again until the 16th when they play Kennesaw State. Sam Houston, again, I always revert back to 2020 when they won that spring national championship when they first moved up to FBS level. They're 7-2, but there's been nothing majorly impressive, especially the last 2 weeks, and it's why they're at number 5 with a 7-2 record. Now let's go to number 4. Number 4 right now, I have the TCU Horned Frogs. TCU, Dykes is starting to get something out of that crew. They beat Texas Tech this week, 35-34. They beat Utah the week before, who again is not living up to what they were. They've had a couple of losses in a row, but I like what Dykes has done. Now they're going to Oklahoma State, and actually they are hosting Baylor this weekend, which should be a win for them. They're 5-3 overall, even though Sam Houston 7-2. I think you put TCU and Sam Houston on a neutral field. I think 9 out of 10 times right there, you're going to come away with TCU, who just has the better athletes coming out of there. That's just my personal opinion going there, but that's why I have TCU at number 4. They're the ones that's climbing. We're getting into our top 3 teams with the same record, 3 teams that have been totally impressive. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 has dropped a spot. Last week they were number 2. I've dropped them to number 3. Even though they won, it's the SMU Mustangs. Hats off to Brett Lashley there and what he's done with SMU. Now, it was a close win. It was a 28-27 win over Duke this week. They do play Pitt. I think Pitt's undefeated. Actually, they are undefeated. So they're going to be hosting Pitt this week. That's a big test. Pitt's number 18. And SMU is ranked. What is SMU ranked right now? I think they're ranked in the, oh my God, what do they have them ranked in the top 25? They're number 20. Pitt's ranked ahead of them. Even though SMU is 7-1, others they've got a loss, 7-1 overall, but they're 4-0 in conference. And that's why. So let's see what happens there. This should be a good game. It should be one to watch. It's going to be on the ACC network. It's at 7:00 this Saturday. 2 teams. This is the ACC. This isn't Conference USA or the Mountain West. Right now, Clemson leads and Miami. They're both undefeated, but these 2 teams are also undefeated. So you got 4 undefeated teams in the ACC play right now. One of them's Pitt, SMU, Miami, and Clemson, and 2 of them are facing off this week. So that's gonna be a big game, and the SMU is hosting them this Saturday. For those in the DFW Metroplex, this might be a good game to go watch Saturday night. Also, I'll be at a concert because of my wife. That's the number 3 team. Now we go to the number 2 team, and we see if anything has changed. Number 2, Texas Longhorns. Aggies, congratulations. You are the number one team this week. I am going with the Texas Longhorns down to number two, mainly because if you put Texas and Texas A&M on a neutral field, I still think, I'm telling you right now, guys, I still think Texas wins that game 7 or 8 times out of 10. I just do. I really just think overall Texas is a better team. But what A&M did, and we'll talk about A&M in a little bit, I'll get back to that, is impressive. Texas has got a bye week this week. They beat Vandy. They barely beat Vandy 27-24. Anyone that watched that game, and I know a lot of you Aggies watched that game, Texas controlled that game. Yes, Vanderbilt got themselves back into it. It came down to an onside kick they were trying to get at the end. They had pulled within 3, but Texas pretty much run that. Texas shot themselves in the foot, honestly. Quinn Ewers had a pretty good bounce back game, threw a couple interceptions, but they were tipped interceptions. It wasn't, bad interceptions where you throw it right into the defender, something to that, or try to force a throw. He just got it tipped at the line of scrimmage, fell into the defender's hands. And good God, Pavia, wow, what an impressive guy. That guy has more grip. He did say, and it's pretty impressive what he said. He said that the best defense, and he has played Alabama and beat them, played against Missouri, who's supposed to have a good defense. Said the best defensive front he faced was the University of Texas. I believe that also. Texas hasn't played a real good passing game yet, and that's part of the issue. I mean, Pavia can throw the ball, but he was under pressure a lot, and Texas kept him under pressure. He didn't kill him with his legs. He scored that first touchdown. Look, there's a lot of controversy on a couple of penalties in that play. One of them was when they went for it on fourth down and they ran the little trick play, and I guess the receiver was on the line of scrimmage and he turned and squared his shoulders towards the sideline. It was the thing they were trying to fool. I don't know the exact rule there. It didn't change. That was when they were tied 7-7, and if you saw the way Texas played against them the entire game, I don't think that made a huge difference. When it came down to it, Texas had more penalties, 10 penalties for 108 yards over I think Vanderbilt had 4 penalties for like 50 yards or something like that. Texas was penalized more and shot themselves in the foot. Had some calls come back also that were probably would have led them there. Texas, they still have the one loss to Georgia. They're 7-1 overall. They're off this week. They do have a bye week, and then they have Florida. They actually host Florida coming into town. That'll be interesting. But they lose their spot for the first time as the number 1 ranked team in Texas, and I'm doing that purely out of a salute to the Texas Aggies. Let's go to number 1. Number 1. Am I doing that right, guys? Gig 'em Aggies, the Texas A&M Aggies. Hats off to Texas A&M. Look, it's always going to be tough to play at College Station. I have never denied, even though I have fun with my Aggie buddies, I have never, ever once denied that playing at Texas A&M is not hard. I believe in my heart of hearts. I don't care what anyone says. You take Texas and A&M and you play them on a neutral field, and this could happen in a way if they were to both make the FBS playoffs and went to separate sides of the brackets and ended up playing. Now, if they played each other in the first round, whoever is the higher ranked team would host it, and again, that would play into it. But if they went to a neutral field and played, I still say 7, 8 out of 10 times the Longhorns probably beat them. And let me tell you why. The quarterback play that A&M is getting has not been stellar to a point. And the way I say that is when I saw Connor Weigman come back and what he did to Missouri, it was basic. There's no getting around it. When people prepare for that quarterback, they have had some success against him. Connor Weigman was not, everyone thought that Marcel Reed was going to be the starter against Missouri. And even the coach that week before said, look, we're preparing for Marcel Reed. We know who's going to be. I know Connor Weigman's coming back from an injury. And Connor Weigman picked them apart. Stood in that pocket like a pro, had time to throw. And boy, when he has time and he's not pressured, he can put the ball with the best of them. He can put them anywhere. Well, then he goes into Mississippi State. Connor, again, when they prepared for him, didn't perform well. He had an okay game, but he didn't perform well. Threw a couple of bad interceptions or threw a bad interception in there. Just didn't look great. They applied some pressure on him, and it didn't look great. Still came away with a 10-point win. I said it was going to be a double-digit win against Mississippi State when a lot of people were saying, go watch for it going up to Mississippi State. I didn't think Mississippi State had the athletes to hang with Texas A&M, and they didn't. And Wigman still did that. Now, you come into LSU, I was worried. I thought LSU might win the game. I didn't pick them, but I did think that they might win that game. But that was because of what I saw with Wegman. When Wigman went down and then Reed came in for that second half, they brought in Marcel Reed. And it wasn't in the second half. It was pretty close in the second half, and they brought him in. It was obvious. LSU wasn't prepared for a quarterback that had legs, and he picked them apart with his legs. He didn't even throw the ball all that well, but he picked them apart with his legs. And I'm going to tell you right now, going forward, hey, look, let me say this to my Aggie friends. Let me say this. I said this, and I could go back and find the tweet. I need to go find it and look at it. But when right after your 2020 season, when you had there was the COVID year, y'all had a great year. You ended up 3 or 4 in the country, and ended up playing in a bigger bowl game, but you didn't win the SEC. And there was some talk that Jimbo Fisher was flirting. Unfortunately, that talk caused you to make a mistake, but he was flirting with LSU. I had a tweet out at that time that I put out that said there is rumors that Jimbo Fisher is talking to LSU. This could be the greatest thing in the world for Texas A&M. If they did that, I would back the Brinks truck up, and I would go get Matt Rule from the Carolina Panthers and let him know that, hey, you are not an NFL coach. Come back to college football. And I thought for sure it would be like a Nick Saban deal. Come back. He was always successful in college. He goes off to the to the Carolina Panthers. And then when he came back, he was going to be successful. And that's what I thought. I was lambasted over that, but I was right, because I have always thought that Jimbo Fisher was a fraud. Now, that doesn't just go back because I love to make fun of my Aggies and I think every hire you make is bad. It has nothing to do with that. There was a point when I think it was the Charlie Strong hiring that there was some flirting with. You remember Nick Saban was the guy that everybody thought might be coming over to Texas, and there was some definite something there. They had talked, and Saban either used it to get a big raise at Alabama, or there's also rumors about Mac Brown playing some games and it fell apart. Whatever the deal is, there was also they got rid of Mac. Mac left, and then there were rumors that Jimbo Fisher might be someone they were looking at Texas. I was screaming, "Don't hire that guy." I had always thought that he built his entire reputation on the back of Jameson Winston. And when he took over that, he was the coach in waiting when what's his name retired, and I thought he was a fraud. And the truth was, he was almost coming out. They were ready to get rid of him at Florida State. I think they loved it that A&M hired him. When you guys went out this year and you got Elko, I didn't know. Now, I didn't know about Sark. I didn't want Sark. I had my eyes set on bigger targets as a UT fan, and they ended up getting Sark, who is turning into quite a coach. Is he the next Nick Saban? I don't know about that, but good Lord, he's getting the recruits. He's obviously the quarterback guru. They want to go play for him. He's going to have 2 quarterbacks that are going to be NFL players coming out. Quinn Ewers may not be a first-round pick, but he'll be a first-day pick. He'll probably be a second or third rounder at the worst, who's going to go into the NFL this year. Arch Manning's right behind him. Arch will probably end up the first overall pick after he plays his year, or maybe 2, depending on how long he wants to stay with Arch Manning. But that right there shows you what Sark has got going. Now, he's turned into it. The Elko pick has turned into a great hire. He has turned into a great hire. What he's done, the way he's played those quarterbacks, and the way he's going to do it this week. I tell you, I don't know who's going to start, but they're going to either start Reed or they're going to start Wegman. I'm telling you right now, South Carolina has to prepare for both. And I think that what's his name has already said something about it. He's like, well, you have to prepare for both of them, which the jig is up. That's, it's up. Everyone is now going to prepare to play against 2 quarterbacks. They're either going to play against the running quarterback, or they're going to play. So they're going to have to change their defenses. I think that could catch up to them. I think South Carolina this week is one of the toughest games that A&M is going to have to play. You'd like to see A&M I think A&M is close. It's close to a pick 'em. I mean, I don't even think they're favored by much because of how South Carolina has played. You know, let's see what happens there. But I know this: if a team has time to prepare for the quarterback, they usually have more success with the quarterback. Look, it happened. Look at Bowling Green. You won 26-20 with Marcel Reed. He didn't play well when Bowling Green, which it's a decent team, had a week to prepare for him. Florida, Florida, the same thing. I mean, Arkansas, 21-17. That's when Reed really kind of uh, showed it. He came in that game, and then they went. What's his name comes back against Missouri, and they win 41-10. And then here you go with LSU, who was not prepared for Marcel Reed, and A&M just whipped their ass is what they did. Great win, fantastic win, and that's why you have two impressive wins by A&M. I still contend that no matter what anyone says, I am a homer for the Texas Longhorns. They have had great wins. They've had great wins. Beating Michigan the way they did is a great win. I don't care what anyone says. It's the second week of the season. They were not supposed to go into the big house and run over them the way they did. Did they send Michigan into the tailspin? They might have. They've done that to all three of their ranked wins. Oklahoma, ranked number 18. Everybody expected Texas to win that game. Oh, but it could be a close game because of what they do. Uh, it might be a close game, whatever, just because they're rivals and how that always works. You never can predict what's going to happen in the Red River rivalry. And what did Texas do? Beat the hell out of OU. Just controlled them and beat them like they stole something. That sent Oklahoma into a bit of a tailspin. Then you have Vandy. Vandy earned the top 25 spot. Actually, they probably earned a little bit better than that after beating the number one team in the country. Then they come in and take on the number 4 team in the country, or the number 5 team in the country, take them down to the wire. No way they should be in the game with either one of those two. They're well coached. They play their hearts out, and they have beat some great teams and taken teams to overtime. And I'm sorry, that win or that loss by Vandy, I thought it was going to be worse, but I was impressed by Vandy. Shouldn't have dropped them out of the top 25. Honestly, I think they should be back in the top 25. And I think they'll earn their way back into there. But they're a well-coached team and a good team. But Texas A&M, you're the guys. You are the king of the ball right now, whatever you want to call it. Go into South Carolina. You need to take care of business. Let me tell you what it's leading up to. If Texas A&M wins out until that game against Texas, and Texas does the same, if Texas wins out and those two come into play each other with Texas having one loss in the SEC and A&M undefeated in the SEC, and they play each other for the SEC, what's going to happen is if Texas ends up winning, which I think they will, maybe not though, but either way, both of those teams are going to end up in the FBS tournament. They're going to be in the top 12, both of them, no matter what happens after that. If Texas ends up losing, now I say that with Texas end up losing a close game. Let's say Texas A&M have an unbelievable game and it comes down to the end and one of them wins by a field goal or less than 7 points, goes back and forth, however you want to play it. Just a great played game, great defensive game, and Texas ends up losing that by a thin margin at Texas A&M at the very end. Both of them will end up, Texas won't drop out of the top 12. They'll end up 8 or 9, somewhere in there. And then A&M will go play for the SEC championship, most likely against Georgia, depending on what they do the rest of the way. It could be Tennessee. I don't know. It could be someone else that slides their way into there and does that. And no matter who wins that game, both your teams that are in the SEC championship are going to end up going into the FBS college football playoffs. In that situation, A&M would obviously be ahead of Texas in the FBS playoffs. Texas would probably fall back to 9 or maybe 10 if they were to lose that last game. Even if A&M lost to Georgia, they'd probably fall back to 6 or 7, depending on what happens. I wouldn't put it past AP to somehow think that, if they got boat raced by Georgia and it ended up losing by 21, 28 points, something like that, maybe A&M falls back to 10 or 11 and Texas somehow jumps them. Wouldn't be fair, but AP votes with emotion every time. That's why A&M isn't ranked as high as I think they should be, to tell you the truth. But if they stay the course, stay with not losing another game before they play each other, I don't see a way that you don't get both Texas and Texas A&M in the college football playoffs. And for the state of Texas, that's fantastic. That is fantastic, and I would love to see it. Boy, I would give y'all more hell than you can imagine, my Aggie friends, if we were to somehow beat y'all, which I think we can. And I do think if Texas and Texas A&M play on a neutral field 10 times, I think Texas does win it about 8 or 9 times, and or 7 or 8 times. And the reason I say that is they just have a better roster right now. Not a coach, roster. Because I'm going to tell you, Mike Elko, you've done a great job. That's it, guys. That's the countdown for this week. Week 10's coming up. My Longhorns are off. Go Aggies or gig 'em Aggies. You're number one in my countdown right now. But you got a big one this weekend. You need to take care of business.